Yeah.
Bonjour, hello,
Hello.
Amandine. Um, do I have your permission to record the Skype interview?
Yes.
Thank you. Also, do I have your consent to upload this interview onto a website? The website will have a password and will be viewable by my graduate studies associates and other interviewees.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
So, what I'm doing is my final project at Northern Arizona University in an MA with a major rhetorical writing and digital media. In this project, I chose an interdisciplinary focus, the study of the documentary Cowspiracy and its effectiveness as a model for behavior change towards environmental sustainability and as a media literacy tool for educating people. So, are
Okay.
you ready to start the questions that I gave you before?
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
number
Yeah.
one, please tell me about yourself.
Okay. So I'm Amandine. I'm French, and I'm 34 years old, and I'm living in Korea, not my native country.
Mhm.
So I will give you more relevant fact about your subject. So I became a vegan like at the end of last year,
Okay.
and because I mean it's a way for me to be kind of an activist without doing so many things because I'm not in my native country. So it's hard for me to do many things. So I think that being a vegan can help it a bit. I mean, and that, what did I say? That also reconcile myself with my values too. So very important for me.
I
Yes.
completely understand. For me, it
Yeah.
was very similar. Yeah.
Yeah. Same for you. Okay.
Okay.
Do
And
you have more information or that's enough, you think?
sure, that sounds great. Anything else that comes up is welcome too.
No,
And
that's enough.
so, before I ask you number two, when did you see the documentary?
Oh, I saw it on internet because actually I wanted to see it in. There was a global climate change festival. You
Oh,
remember?
yeah, I know about that. Yeah, I think
And
that
I
was
want,
late summer, maybe.
it was in September or October. I don't
Yeah.
remember when exactly. Maybe at the end of September. And there was a movie there. I
Mhm.
watched another one, but the movie was screened on Saturday, and I couldn't watch it, so I watched it on internet after.
Yeah,
I
that's
prefer to pay for it, but I just watch it on internet.
that's how I saw it. They did the same thing the in a previous year, and that's how I saw it for the first time as well.
Ah, okay.
So my question number two was, what did you think of Cowspiracy?
Okay, so I thought the movie was really striking,
Hmm.
like because of its appealing facts about the impact of livestock on the environment, first. Secondly, I mean, the non-address of the livestock pollution by the environmental organization was striking to me too. I was really amazed by that.
The what address?
And
Sorry.
the non-addressing
Ah, yes,
of the
yes, yes.
livestock pollution by the environmental organization
Yeah.
was a bit, yeah, striking too. Also, that through the movie we can understand as how unthought the meat and animals consumption are in our societies too. I think
Mhm.
that's really good point. The lobbyist power too. And also, what I really liked in the movie, the optimistic end, where people describe a sustainable way of living that is thrilling for me because of where the non-human world would be much more important than now, like more wild animal, more forest, and things like that.
Mm. The
But
non-human world. I like that. Okay.
yeah, I
Nice.
don't want to say nature because it doesn't make sense for me, but whatever. But what I didn't agree with
Mm.
was more about the title because there is no conspiracy for me because
Ah,
I think it's just economical agents using the resources in order to protect and develop their own interests. I think
yeah.
it's pretty normal in general.
Hmm.
And also, the title doesn't represent the movie because, I mean, it doesn't represent fairly the movie because the movie is not just about cows in general, but
Right.
livestock in general.
Yeah.
But anyway, I guess the director needed a strong title that would attract viewers. I think that's the goal of the title. You know what I mean?
Ah.
Because I think for me it's not a conspiracy because this conspiracy is like people without saying to anybody that they're going to do something illegal, and I
Yeah.
don't think that's a conspiracy for me. So that's
Ah.
my only critics, but
Those
I
are
understand why he made them. title this way.
Those are great insights. I totally agree with you, and I think,
Yeah.
yeah, titling it that way can present resistance to people, and it makes it seem like
Right. Yeah.
it could be or sneaking around to undo people's livelihoods or businesses,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be that way. I think maybe a different title could make more of a community sense of like
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
proactive for everyone. That's a really
Yeah.
good point that
Yeah.
I never
You're
thought
right.
about.
Because as I say, it could attract people, but as you said, it on another one, it could like prevent people. Like, oh, I don't want to watch it. Like a conspiracy.
Yeah,
Yeah. They could feel a bit attacked. Or yeah.
yeah.
You're right about that.
Well,
So that was just.
that's partly them, but I think that's inherent in the whole, like, as being a vegan, it's really difficult sometimes to approach people with this lifestyle. Some people are open and some people have a resistance to it, so
Yeah.
it's hard to know how to formulate. I'm a vegan, I'm plant-based. Finding the right words to explain the lifestyle can be a challenge in itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you already mentioned a little bit before, but my question number 3 was, did Cowspiracy influence your attitudes, your habits, your behaviors?
Okay, so when I watch it, I was in the process of becoming vegan already.
Yeah.
So it reinforced my motivation, by knowing it was the right choice for the environment. And also it just made me think about the French situation, more to think about it, because, French is the third country for milk and the fifth for cow meat in the world. So, and I can understand how difficult it is to address this issue because of our economy, and especially at a time of economical crisis. And when you attack some like economical sector, you can't be hurt, because of that. And it makes me think about our culture that is based on livestock and our tradition of eating cheese, drinking milk, much more than eating meat, because eating meat it's much more news and all these things like milk and cheese. And yeah, so how it's a big challenge for French society, I think.
Definitely. French culture is almost synonymous with gastronomical etiquette, right? People are drawn to France for the cuisine and that experience of being passionate about food and lifestyle. But
yeah.
I think also being, as I mentioned to you, I'm a bit of a Francophile myself. And some of the things, France is leading the way in a lot of innovation that I think it's environmental sustainable innovation. Recently I read how the French government has passed laws forbidding restaurants to throw away food, to reduce food garbage, and instead be giving that to people. And also, I recently read that there will be laws passed where all rooftops must be made into gardens. Is that true?
I don't know, but maybe that's possible. I don't know. I didn't hear about it. Did you hear about also for like kids a restaurant in school? School, they have now they have a law where they have to use more like local products and things like that.
Okay.
That's kind of new. But I think about the meat and cheese consumption were really late. I mean, we're not really progressive in this way, I think.
Yeah. Well, a couple of years ago, I actually finally visited France, and I was going to Spain. Well, mostly Spain to stay with my friend, and I took a weekend in Paris.
Yeah.
And before going, I thought, okay, well, I wonder if I can find restaurants. I found some meetup groups where I met, like a vegan, vegetarian meetup group. There were not that many in Spain, but there were people interested in eating that kind of food and chatting. So I met some really nice people there. And when I was doing the research, I think France was one of the lower ones, not quite so many vegans as other Europeans. I think England was really high.
Yeah, it's surprising.
And I thought about my experience of French culture. Being Canadian, it's our second language. Most people are not bilingual, but we have some understanding of French. And before coming to Korea, I worked in a French restaurant that was operated by these lovely gentlemen who had been doing it for 20 years. And I'd imagine trying to tell them about plant-based diets, and just the reaction that I might have gotten from them would be really funny. but kind of useless.
I know, I can imagine.
Who knows, though? Who knows? But there's, you know, food is so important to French culture, in my opinion, and
And as you say, like, yeah, it's part of the culture. So, like, by eating, we are also like representing who we are, and we are
yeah,
protecting our culture too. That's why it's hard to change it a bit, you know. But like when I came back for Christmas, I haven't spent like Christmas for 3 years with my family,
hmm
and I came back as a vegan. But nobody said anything.
oh,
Everybody can say, "Oh, that's good." And my
mm,
friend, they were kind of saying, "Wow, I'm kind of admire you because I can't do it, but I think what you're doing is really good." So
mm.
I had very, very positive, yeah, comments from my family and and my
Yeah.
friends. So
Well, there's always a way. Actually, when I went to Paris, I met a mutual friend who I hadn't met before, but we
yeah.
met through social networking, and he is also vegan.
Mm-hmm.
He had ties to Korea and had lived in Korea, and so we met with another friend of mine, and he took us to an Ethiopian restaurant
Ah, okay.
downtown, and we had the most amazing food. Oh, I still fantasize about that meal. It was, I don't know
Yeah,
the name of it, but it's this really big round dish. It's kind of,
yeah,
in Korea we have the bibimbap, which is all the mixed vegetables.
yeah,
It
yeah,
was
yeah.
like a version of that with some kind of like flat bread on the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
and you just take the bread and break pieces off and eat it with your hands. Oh my gosh, it was so
Uh-huh.
good.
And that was in Paris, right?
Yeah. And
Okay.
I've been following through different like Instagram, and I like to follow recipe and
Mhm.
foodie pages. And
Yeah.
one of my favorite is, I think she's like French vegan in Paris or something like that. And she shows that she can even make croissant and all kinds of variations of French foods through a vegan,
Yeah. No, that's really good.
ingredients.
Me, when I was in France, I made some vegan cakes. I made vegan chocolate mousse, and things like that. And my parents,
Mm.
they loved it.
You know, just before we started recording
Yeah.
this video, I realized you're living very close to me. We're gonna have to get together for a cooking party, I think.
Sure, it's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm
people
excited.
we can cook vegan food. It
Oh
would
my
be great.
god. That's
Yeah.
what I think that's a way to lead people in is through the positive aspects like delicious food.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
back to the
Okay.
cowspiracy. I do think that it is a good education tool in that there are other documentaries promoting a plant based diet for different reasons, like
Yeah.
for health or for compassion to animals, which I think are also very important. But I think going through a very logical
Yeah.
presentation of
Mm-mm-mm.
how it can lighten someone's environmental footprint
Yeah.
allows people to get acquainted with the plant based lifestyle in a non threatening way compared to some really gory videos of factory farming, which sometimes it's too much for people to digest and they just kind of,
Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
yeah.
Yeah. It's less shocking. Yeah.
So you're a teacher right now, and I wonder if you can answer my question number 4, which is how can this documentary, Cowspiracy, best be used as an educational tool inside or outside the classroom?
I mean, I guess it will depend on the age of the students,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, it can develop in so many ways. I think. So I was just thinking because you said like you are into media literacy.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think this documentary, it's a style of activist documentary where the director is also the main character that you follow in his inquiry, but through his interview, his thoughts, his realizations.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the very contemporary style of making documentaries, such as, for example, Gasland. I guess you've
Gasland.
heard about this one.
No, can you explain?
Gasland, oh, I forgot the English name. It's when you dig in the ground to find gas. You have many, a lot in the US.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Right, the petroleum industry? No?
It's not petroleum, is a real gas. I forgot how you call it. It it's not the liquid that you find, it's gas. You
Like
know what I mean?
air gas?
Yeah, it's like air gas in the ground, and
Oh.
you dig it out, and they use it for heating water to heat
Like
your
we
house.
do in Korea, all the stoves are gas stoves. You mean that kind of gas?
Yeah, I think that's kind of gas, but
Mm.
I think there is a special name about that in English. But
Mm.
okay, whatever. Okay, maybe when we'll do again the interview, we'll find out the right translation. Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm one of the reasons I want to record these is so I can easily go back and
Okay.
get the information I collect from people. So I will do
Okay.
that. Yeah.
So okay, I will put it in red to find out the right. And also, I give you this movie that was Gasland, and the Korean movies that I saw at the climax that was Dilemma of an Omnivore Family. I think the way of making the documentary is pretty similar when you follow the director and how the director become more aware about the issue that the director is talking about.
Yeah. As you say that, that really made something click with me
Yeah.
because part of media literacy is, well, media literacy defined could be very simply put as having students learn to consume media in a way that they critically think about it. So,
Yeah.
ways to do that is to have them ask questions: who made this? Why
Mm.
did they make it? What do they
Yeah. Yeah.
want
Yeah.
to happen? How would different people experience this differently?
Mm-hmm.
And the best way to teach media literacy is to have a component where your students are creating their own media. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's because it allows them to get behind the camera or the computer and realize it's a constructed image. So they realize someone is out there making this and showing this to me, because we can lose sight of that. So, yeah, the fact that you said the director is the main character, it really puts a very high level, it seems like a very high level of transparency of the whole process, doesn't
Right.
it?
Right.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think transparency is a way to build trust with people,
Yeah.
to let them know what you're doing, why you're doing it, and then they can make their own
Mm.
decision of their opinion on the matter,
Yeah.
right?
No, I
Yeah.
know what you mean. But I mean, just like to study this way of making documentaries, just a style of documentaries. And my second point was more about media awareness, like critical thinking about media.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have it with my first point, but the second point would be more about thinking about the title, what the title means, what it implies, to check
Mm-hmm.
out the definition of conspiracy,
Mm-hmm.
first, and in order to understand what are the documentarist intentions, okay? And also about the content in itself, about the fact level, to check all the sources that he quoted, to
Mm-hmm.
compare the numbers that he gave with other sources. So
Yeah, absolutely. To make them check the facts for
check
themselves.
the facts here for
Have
themselves.
Have you found the Cowspiracy fact page?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've been looking.
Interesting.
Oh,
Okay.
I'll send it to you later. There's a few things that usually come up in the interview. That's one of them. So they actually made a website where you can reference everything that they said and find the
Yeah.
original documents and how they found them. And then they also have a separate website, so people have found them and some people have criticized elements like,
Mm.
oh, where did you get this number for methane gas? Is that article peer reviewed? And then it's like a constant dialogue that keeps
Mhm.
being updated.
Okay.
Yeah,
Very interesting.
I will send that to you after.
Okay, thank you.
And they're working on another documentary too. Did you know about that one?
No. What is this documentary about?
Again, they have a striking title. It's called What the Health?
What the hell?
And
Okay.
they are looking into the medical industry and how meat and dairy products are affecting people. And one of the interesting things about that one is another question that some people have said to me is, well, how did they pay for this? And that's a media literacy question in itself. Like, who is funding this project? That money talks. Who's paying for this to be made? The original funder for Cowspiracy, they didn't reveal in the documentary who that was, but they did mention that at a certain point that funder dropped away, right?
Yeah. That's what
And
they
so how
said.
did they finish it? They finished it with crowdsourcing. Crowdsourcing is like Indiegogo and those websites where if you have any kind of project, a musician, an artist, a teacher, anyone can say, I want to do this thing, I need money. People can see it and donate anonymously or with their name. So they actually finished the whole movie like that. And the second movie they made, they had a target amount that they wanted to make, and they reached it in one day. And right now, the last time I checked, they were at 260% of their target financial goal for the production of their second film. So they're going to use that money to do some extra things like translating it into more languages and trying to get it into a quality where it could be shown in like a proper movie theater and stuff like that.
Very good.
So I'll send you those later after we get off.
Would be interesting. Okay, and so I had like about the subject of the environment in itself.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, as he's making a movie about the U.S. situation, I mean, I'm French. I can imagine that you could make a comparative study with the French situation. So you do the same kind of inquiry in France with your students.
Ah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, but with interviewing people working in environmental organization, as he does, journalists or authors of books about environmental issues, and Ministry of Environment also, it could be interesting, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And just to get information about that. I mean, the way it does by interviewing different people to see about what is the situation of livestock, situation in France.
Mm.
Also, I think it would be interesting for students to have an historical point of view about and an anthropological point of view about farming, livestock farming. Because, I mean, that could make them understand for how long have we been farming in the world, like, for example, in France. How did we use animals? I mean, was it to help us in the field, to eat, whatever? And also, an anthropological point of view would be more about comparing different societies now. Are they all livestock farming societies? Are there societies that don't use livestock or whatever? And I think that could show to make realize students that our way of eating is not a fatality, but that can be different.
Sorry, I just jumped away.
Don't worry.
One of the speakers in the video was the writer of this book, The World Peace Diet.
Ah, interesting.
Have you heard of it?
No.
The last point you're talking about, this whole book is really about that.
Ah,
and
okay.
he talks about for thousands of years, kind of the aristocracy have been controlling animal agriculture and sometimes pushing people off of their land in order to have meat, when peasants ordinarily would have been growing their own food and being more self-sustainable. They were pushed deeper into poverty because they were under the control of the landowner who wanted them to produce cows, and that would also contribute to the degradation of. It's a really interesting book. The speaker, Will Tuttle, has been vegan for, I don't know, 20 or 30 years. He's a really prominent figure, and he was in the movie, and I actually was able to hear him talk. He came to Korea to do a talk, because apparently he was inspired by temple stay experience here many years ago.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should read this book. It seems really interesting. Could you send me on maybe Skype? Could you write me his name?
Yeah, I'm making a little list of things to send you.
Okay.
I can lend you this copy if you wanted to read it in English, but you could probably buy it in French also too. So
I prefer when the book is in English. I read it in English. So no. Yeah, why not? But maybe I will buy it so I can write on it or whatever.
Well, I don't mind if you write on this one. I like notes. We have so much to share. I really like how you've written a research paper that you're reading out of right now. Is there something else? Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No. Just by having an historical point of view, an anthropological point of view, just realize the student that the way of living and eating is not a fatality and that everything can be different. Mm-hmm. And also to make them understand in which societies they live in, you know. And I mean, what I thought could be interesting is to make the student watch the movie with their families or their friends and to make a report about their reaction, the reaction of the family and friends, in order to understand better their background. Where are the family's values, the family habits, and what are their friends' values and family habits too, to understand who they come from too. I think is important goal of education too. And I mean, with all you say, because the goal of this study is also to make make the kids make their own movies. I mean, they could do like the director, but on a very small scale, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Same. I mean, it's easy. Maybe, I mean, it will be different according where they live. If they live in the countryside, if they
Mm-hmm.
live in a big cities where they can interview like head of maybe environmental organizations, but maybe if they live in the countryside, they will do more something about livestock living condition,
Mm-hmm.
maybe farming or farmers or whatever, you know. And I mean, you can also use it as a philosophical or ethical level. I mean, you just show the movie and you can talk about the reaction, you know, because this movie is just about the man role and position in the world as well as the position of non-human things in the world, you know, and especially at the end of the movie when they talk about a better future, a brighter future with much more wilderness and things like that. I mean, that
Mm.
could question us who we are in the world, what our position, and things like that. So I don't know. I mean, you can exploit it in so many different ways.
Oh, you're a treasure chest of ideas here. Oh, in my last interview,
Yeah,
it came up on your last point.
yeah.
That reminds me of a project that I am fascinated with that I thought would be interesting to do at some point if it was possible. When I was traveling in India, in Dharamsala is
Yeah.
the home of the Dalai Lama in exile,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things in that community is a film study center and an education center for Tibetan rights and Tibetan culture. And
Mm-hmm.
film is a really important part of it, and they would have movie showings. There are so many films that have been made on their topic. And one of the films that I did watch was a woman from Montreal
Mm-hmm.
who's Tibetan. She was adopted, I believe, and she went back to Lhasa, the capital of Tibet or previous Tibet, and she snuck into family homes with a video recorder, and she had two recorders in her bag, and one was to show a video of the Dalai Lama speaking in Tibetan to his people because they're forbidden to talk about him, they're forbidden to watch anything, to say his
Yeah.
name, to talk
Mm-hmm.
about the religion, and the very strong emotional reaction from like these small families who were watching. She recorded them watching it and made a video, a
Ah, very
movie just
interesting.
about that. She did get into a lot of trouble. Um,
Ah,
it had some severe repercussions. Some of the people, it's so sad to say, but some of the people who participated in that also, had their own problems too. But I like the idea of uh, the perspective of looking into oneself, like having a
mm-hmm.
video looking into the process of itself, like you suggested, making the
Yeah.
kids, recording the reaction of their
Mm-hmm.
family while they watch
Yeah.
it.
That could be very interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. To have like fresh reactions just after watching the movie, what they think about it. And yeah, yeah, yeah. It makes me think of a French movie from the 50s that was the
Oh.
same style, but it was about happiness, you know, and it was in Paris, and they were like interviewing people on the street or people that they knew, so they have much more
Hmm.
deeper interviews. And the movie was more about intimacy and how expressing yourself and what are the boundaries until which level can you express yourself about what you say, what you can't say. And it was in the 50s in France, so people after watching, like the director, he recording the reaction after the screening,
Hmm.
and you could see that many people felt like some people said too much about themselves, and some people think that the people were very courageous to talk about it, and that you can just see how French society was so conservative at that time that talking about your own feelings, your own life was something that you shouldn't talk too much about, you know. But it was really interesting that some reaction were really violent because it
Hmm.
touched something really deep in people. And I think this movie, Cowconspiracy, could do the same. Some
That's true.
people could react really negatively, and maybe some could react very positively. It depends.
And
Yeah.
that makes me think of the perspective of 50 years in the future,
Yeah.
looking back on this documentary and thinking, oh, back in the days when people would eat animals. What barbarians, and how could they be shocked by this? That's what my wishful thinking is.
Oh
part
yeah.
of being the researcher is I should be transparent about my own views, but it's an interesting process. I want to be very open to where everyone is coming from and value their own experience and let them know where I'm coming from and how I've gotten to where I am in my journey as well.
Sure, sure. Yeah.
Well, Amandine,
Yeah.
this has been a very valuable time for me,
Yeah, me too.
and
Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
I'm really pleased that you were interested. So I think I'm going to wrap it up at this point. We're at about 30 minutes now, so I will be in touch with you about the process from here and let you see the video after it's put up on
Okay.
the website and send you the links that we talked about.
Okay, thank you. Then I'm checking some facts, you know.
As you do.
Okay, so you call me a bit later. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, you soon.